Hey, Ryan Michael Galloway here with We Don't Need No Stinking Recordcompany.com, and we're talking about music, musicians, and Asperger syndrome. And Asperger syndrome is, as I described in my last post, it's a condition that is related very closely to autism. It is, you might call it a type of autism. I would say the more you slide towards normal, quote unquote, whatever that is, on the scale, the less symptoms you have, or the less conditions that present themselves. The more you slide towards autism and however your brain works, the more autistic kinds of reactions to things that you might have. You might get extremely upset at relatively small changes. Well, there's a pretty wide range of people that have Asperger's syndrome. And in fact, we can be pretty functional. We can actually be pretty phenomenal in some cases. Some of us are intelligent, some of us are not. Some of us can override and develop techniques to override our autistic tendencies. Some of us cannot. And so it's all kind of a sliding scale. If you've met one person, as I said with Asperger's, you've met one person. It can be very different. And then layer on top of their personality traits and things are all different. But underlying is this drive for very linear type of thinking. And if it's not extremely linear, maybe one option for a person with this kind of thinking is that they not only have the linear step-by-step kind of thought process going on, but they also have contingency plans and know exactly what they're going to do if and when a certain condition happens. And if those things don't come together, we can kind of lose it a little bit, especially if we're under a lot of pressure. But before you say that you don't want to work with anybody with Asperger's, or before you decide that we're all completely Looney Tunes, I do want you to know that there's quite a few people that have had Asperger's that have done quite well. For instance, Bill Gates. For instance, Dan Aykroyd. For instance, Mozart. For instance, several of the founding fathers, including, I believe, Washington, Jefferson, and Franklin. There are a bunch of people. I've heard numbers that, only 1 out of 10,000 people have Asperger's. I think that's completely off. And it depends on the population of people that you're working with. In fact, I find an awful lot of people who are project managers and business process analysts, and this is some work that I've done myself, exhibit an awful lot of Asperger type tendencies. We are great schedule keepers. We are great, I guess, kind of navigators through processes. We're great at mapping out relationships between things and entities and sometimes people. One of the problems that we have, you may notice that I'm able to look right at the camera, but if you were right in front of me, I probably would not be looking at you and looking at you in the eye, because we have a tendency to regard people's faces as rather intense. Not all of us, but a lot of us do. And that makes it kind of challenging for us to read some of the body language and signals. We can, some of us can kind of outlearn that, can control it. But if you're like me, you can talk to anybody from the janitor to the CEO, and communicate outwardly just fine. But there can be somebody right next to you that has daggers in their eyes and is ready to kill you or is plotting against you, and you have no clue. You don't necessarily read people very well. I'm sure there's ways to learn it, but it's hard to learn. So what's all this got to do with music? Well, the kind of interesting thing about why I think, and did I mention Mozart was one of the people who had Asperger's? So let's think about that. These are people that like to think very linear. These are people that like to, that don't necessarily enjoy surprises or changes in their plans, unless they're extremely positive and overwhelming. Sometimes a surprise can be okay, but some of us can't handle surprises, good or bad. But if you think about music in general, especially written music, is very cyclical. There's a verse, there's often a chorus, there's repetitive stuff, and there's a bridge, and it comes kind of where you expect it to. and there are dynamics, and they come where you expect them to. And so if you are listening to a song or playing a song over and over and over again, you know exactly when what is going to happen. Now, this is a very comforting state for somebody with Asperger's. We also have a tendency to be very kind of sonically intent, sometimes to our detriment. In other words, noises that we can't control may distract us greatly or create a great deal of stress in us. And yet, if we're in control of the sound and we aren't going to be surprised that we're going to hit that power chord, and that power chord hits, it's very empowering to us. How about that power chord? Anyway, so if we know it's going to be G chord, A chord, D chord, and we know what order it's going to be, then playing it is actually pretty comforting too. And we might be really good at practicing because we can often play the same thing over and over and over again and really get into it. Because what? We know what to expect. We know exactly what's going to happen next. So not everybody with Asperger's finds music comforting or even interesting, but I do believe there's potentially an inordinate number of pretty exceptional musicians that happen to have Asperger's. And I tried to mention a few minutes ago, I've heard figures like 1 out of every 10,000 people have got it. I think it's more like 3 or 4 people out of every 100, but then again, it depends on the populations that you're exposed to, the people you're hanging out with. And maybe it does spread out that evenly throughout the population, but boy, in the project management and business analyst field, and the music field, I see a bunch of people that have this. Lawyers, a number of folks. And we are particularly often very gifted at being able to see relationships between things and how things affect each other that don't make sense to other folks. Myself, I see relationships between things, process flows in what's happening, and setting up a band, in using social media and using the internet. If I close my eyes and think of those things, I see them in 3 dimensions. And the most interesting challenge that I have is turning them into 1 or 2 dimensions so that I can show them to you. When I'm writing something out, writing my books, but if you think of music in general, we're firing off when we play and listen to music, particularly when we play, and even if we read and play. We're firing off an awful lot of things at once in our brain, more stuff in our brain than just about anything else when we're playing music. More different parts of our brain have to work in concert. And it is a very multi-dimensional production, and we understand relationships between, anybody who's a musician understands relationships between the drums and the bass and the guitar, and when you're playing over people and when you're not, and all that kind of thing. But I think for those of us with Asperger's who have tuned into that part of our capabilities, might have some exceptional skills there, and I believe that I do. So that's the tie, one of the ties that I see between musicianship and Asperger's syndrome. And I will come back with more on this in the next post. I'm Ryan Michael Galloway. We don't need no stinking record company.com.